Welcome back to another episode of Outside 50 podcast brought to you by US Footy News. Be sure to head over to usfootynews.com for all of our podcasts and the latest updates to Australian rules football right here in the United States. For this episode, I'm your host, Tara Silky. Rick and Ben will be back next time because it's Ladies' Night. And for this episode, we have a very special guest. She's an incredible athlete, a longtime footy player, a mother of two, a lawyer, a president, a coach, a founder, a leader, and a role model, and a legend, not just for the women's side, but for footy across the entire United States. Really, she's a real world embodiment of Wonder Woman. So without further ado, please welcome from the New York Magpies, Drea Casillas. Hello, Drea. How are you? And thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Tara. Thanks so much for that intro. That was quite the intro. Glad to be here.
I mean, is there anything you can't do or haven't done?
I like to have challenges.
Yeah, you've definitely done a lot for the footy community, and you're very well known and everything. So it's great to have you on. So thank you again for being here.
Gotcha.
Well, we usually like to get started with a little background from our guests. So, where are you from? How'd you get involved with footy? And also tell us about your start and role with the New York Magpies.
Yeah, so I actually started playing. You have to excuse my dog. I think that she's jealous of the attention. I started playing footy in Arizona. I was a Arizona Hawk, and just happened to uh, become friends with a guy that was starting a team there, and he spent the better part of a year trying to convince me to play. And when I went to my first training session, I just kind of fell in love with it. And so it's been when was that? That was in 2005. So I've been playing ever since. I couldn't put down footy even when I moved to New York City. So I managed to convince my best friend. Well, she actually started playing footy with me at the same time in Arizona, but I managed to convince her to move to New York City with me, and we co-founded the New York Magpies together. And she's also a legend in her own right, Christina Licata.
Yes, she is definitely for sure. When was that you guys started in New York?
So we moved to New York at the end of 2007, and it was actually funny because we went to the 2007 Nationals and met a lot of the Magpies in a jacuzzi, or the then Magpies in the jacuzzi, and promised them that we'd be there in 2008 to start a team, and I don't think that they believed us. So they were pretty surprised when I walked up at Central Park at our old training grounds and was ready to go.
Oh, wow. And was there already a men's team established then, and you just started the women's team? Okay.
Yeah, there was already a men's team established. It was actually established in 1998. So they had some women that were supporters, but they didn't have a team yet. So there was a little excitement, a little hesitation, kind of all the considerations that they had to take when we let them know that we were coming with the intention of beginning a team.
Well, you've definitely grown it a lot since then, for sure. You and Christina have taken the Magpies to new heights for the women's side. Have the men been really supportive of you over the years?
Yeah, I think that just similar, we kind of follow um, the same pathway as far as how the women's league got established. We started out small, and there was some support, and then as soon as players started seeing how invested we were in not only getting to know the sport, but also just growing the sport and growing the clubs and supporting the clubs, everyone became more receptive and more excited. And I think just kind of our enthusiasm helped spark even more enthusiasm within the club.
Very nice. And then what is your role, I guess, in the New York Magpies currently, and or I guess all of your roles that you have?
Yeah, I mean, I've played a few roles throughout my time at the Magpies, just starting out representing the women and then growing into vice president and now I'm the president of the club. And I mean, I'm sure as many people know around the league, you start out with one intention and you end up wearing many hats, just because there are many things to do, and a lot of passion that goes into wanting to make sure that those goals are achieved. So I'm the president, but I feel like we kind of play a little bit of everything.
Yeah, definitely. And you are also on the women's freedom as well, correct? And how long have you been playing for
Yeah.
them?
Well, so I started playing for the Freedom in 2009 was our first tour in Australia, and that was actually before there was, or before the women were part of the International Cup. So we basically went on a tour playing the local clubs, the local Australian teams, and man, we went around the country with Kraz as our head coach. It was great. It was amazing. It was the first time that any of us had seen proper footy grounds or saw proper footy goalposts. So it was quite the experience. And I mean, I think all the members on that team just really learned how valuable it was to be a woman in the sport, and how I mean the bonds that we've made from them have been incredible. I'm still friends with many of the players who I met there, and just the many of the connections that we've made from that first tour has led to a lot of the games that we've seen here in the U.S. So this I played, I guess, in all the international cups until this year. Of course, this year the IC was canceled, but this year I was also uh, not, or last year I was not playing because I was pregnant with my son, who is now 9 months. So this would be the first year that I'm not on the Freedom team, but it's also exciting to see that team grow.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you just did have a baby last year, and you proceeded to play in your 14th nationals last year, correct?
Yes, yeah, that was quite the experience. I was a little worried about my my fitness, that's for sure.
Well, I don't think we give women enough credit. Sometimes it's so empowering to see the strength of women players. I know several Denver Bulldog women and many other women as well who have been in their early stages of pregnancy, playing at nationals or tournaments or games, still coming into trainings throughout pregnancy, and then returning immediately after being medically cleared to do so after giving birth. So I think it's so inspiring to know how truly badass and insanely strong and determined our women players are.
Yeah, it's one of those things that as soon as we grew up, a lot of us grew up playing sport, and then when we got into our adult lives and didn't have a sport to play in a team setting, and you finally find that in your footy community, when you lose it, like due to pregnancy or due to whatever circumstances that you're in, you miss it. And so when it's such a large part of your life, and a large part of just how you of your almost your happiness and your positive mentality, and all that, it's hard to not play, and it's hard to not be like really focused on getting back.
Definitely, yeah, for sure. I see that all the time with our women players. It's amazing to see just their like true grit of like determination of getting back out there, and their struggle when they're not like fully, in the fitness or like ready to go. It's
Yeah.
just it impresses me all the time. It's amazing.
It's nice,
Well,
and it's
that's
good to be back.
yeah. Do you feel like being a new mom has changed your game at all?
I think that it was pretty valuable to spend a year on the sidelines watching the game, and watching, just how much the league has improved, but also the passages of play. I mean, I'm really fortunate to have T here as a coach, and we have a full coaching staff uh, for the women's side in New York, which is great. So you get to see more things and be directed to how players are being coached, how the strategy that's involved with coaching. And I think that like, as much as I didn't intend for that to be my experience last year as sitting out on the sidelines, it definitely
Yeah.
was invaluable, and I'm hoping that that will reflect on my game as we start to get back into trainings at some point this year.
So, how are the Lady Magpies shaping up this season? What are you all doing in preparations for nationals this year, and how's the team looking?
Yeah, so we're fortunate this year where we have a bunch of new players returning, and I think that's always a good start. We did fall just short of getting into the grand finals last year, so that's always a disappointment. But I think that really ignited a spark and a fire that we know that we all want to get to play in the grand finals, but also we know what it takes to to be able to get there, and we know the things that we need to work on. So yeah, we've also been having virtual fitness sessions. Um, we're involved in fitness competitions, just trying to keep the fitness up, but also keep um, like balance that with a good mindset. Right now, with everything just being up in the air and not being able to comfortably run outside, or just there's so many constraints with the pandemic right now. We're also pretty cognizant of making sure that we're taking care of ourselves mentally, and the self-care that's involved with that. Just trying to encourage that and keep a very positive environment so that people can make sure that we get through this little hurdle first, and then we can move on to thinking about nationals.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think it's so important to think about the mental aspect, which we so often forget, especially as players. We usually tend to focus on our physical side. So it's really good to hear that New York is focusing on the mental side as well and keeping positivity up for players.
Yeah, it is.
The New York Magpies have definitely grown and become stronger and intense players over the years, especially since I've been playing. I've noticed that over the past 5 years, the intensity has grown for the Magpies. You guys are always tough competition. What do you think is the biggest contribution to that?
You know, I mean, it's just the competition level, I have to say, and I think that that's it's a good observation for our team, but I think it's pretty in line with how the rest of the teams are growing around the league. I mean, you we're able to now see the level that we want to play at. So, like, if we're looking and watching the AFLW games, you can see better passages of play, we can see better skills, and then we can kind of strive to try to achieve those on our own over here. And then the only opportunities that we have to actually do that is when we play each other. So I think that yeah, we definitely have that drive to continue to improve. But I think we also have to have that drive to want to improve and become more focused, because it's following in line with the intensity that you're seeing around the league,
Hmm.
which is great because the competition just makes everyone better.
Yeah, I've seen that for sure. I'm really glad that the women's game has picked up so much over the years. It's really impressive to see.
Yeah, and it's exciting because I mean, a lot of the opportunities that the players have, as far as playing on the Freedom or on the Liberty, they've been able to meet some of the players that we're now watching in the AFLW competition. So it just makes it a little more personal and a little more accessible for the players that are thinking about um, trying to go that next level and potentially becoming an international rookie.
Yeah, that would be great. We had Danny on our podcast a little while ago, and so it'd be really cool to see more women players transition from the United States into Australia play. Do you have any
Yeah.
players in the Magpies that are close?
We have a lot of talent, and I think that we are always trying to encourage players, and then at the same time, we don't want them to leave us. So it's one of those I guess happy problems to have. But yeah, we definitely encourage players. We want to also make sure that players are, if they're hesitant to make that kind of move, encouraging them to just go for a short period of time, or even just playing, um, like stepping up their intensity either within the club or trying out for the Freedom.
That sounds wonderful. What has been your favorite part about the club or the team, or what has been your best memory of playing footy?
Oh wow, there's so many. So I think that what's been really impressive about our club is um, our we're having to grow into more of a cohesive club and build our community a little bit more every year. And we're seeing that players living in New York, you kind of it is a little bit more transient, I think, than other cities or other clubs. So you build bonds, and then sometimes, or more often than sometimes, often people move away. So just making sure that we're maintaining a strong community and getting around our alumni, getting around anyone who's injured, and getting around just everyone and being there for each other has really strengthened over the years, and it's great to see, and I think that it ends up paying dividends when you see um, like instances where we have now where players may be um, not out of work, or just looking for community because their community is normally their families are far away. So it's great to be a part of a club that's doing that and is cognizant that they're more than just a football team. We're an actual community, um, and I'm really proud about that. I'm really proud to be a part of it.
Yeah, that sounds really great that you guys are having that community feel. I know that's one of the big aspects that lack from like smaller club at times, which is difficult for them to be able to grow that community. And New York is such a big area and state with a lot of people, so it's really good to be able to connect those people together in such a large city.
Yeah, and it's you feel it's good to feel that New York is small sometimes, because again, like it's you can get lost in the amount of hours that you have to work and all the things that come with living in a city like New York. But it's good to know that you can also um, go with the other, families that have kids the same age as my kids, or we can go to the beach with just a small group, or do whatever, and know that basically my entire community in New York City is from the footy club.
Mhm. That's yeah, I love seeing that and having that available, so that's great. You're heavily involved with helping to grow the game with the Women's Association, your history with being on the board of the USAFL, and being a leader on and off the field. How do you feel the growth of the women's game is going in the United States?
Yeah, I think that it's growing well. Like, it's great to see that there are the smaller clubs that are popping up around the league, because I think that it just we just need to keep amplifying all the voices. Obviously, we don't have the same number of women's teams as we have as men's teams, so I think that that's kind of that needs to be a goal for all the clubs to encourage there to be, at least at the bare minimum, a women's team where there is a men's team. But that's always hard because it's different from where when a guy recruits women versus a female that recruits women. It's women are more comfortable seeing other women who are interested in getting tackled versus a guy telling them you'll love getting tackled. Like, it just doesn't have the same kind of messaging. um,
Yeah.
so it's one of those things where where you're able to achieve that with the more people that you get involved, but you have to get those people involved. So I think that one hindrance that you always have is that just, and I know that I'm guilty of doing this as well, just wearing too many hats, so that ends up burning the person out. And I think that we have to
Mhm.
also be cognizant that we need to encourage other people to get involved, and also support the people who are involved. um, and I think we can do that, but everyone needs to kind of be um, united. And I think for the most part, the league is, but everyone needs to be at least united in that support, so that we can continue encouraging the people who are uh, are putting their hands up for everything to continue doing it, knowing that they have support.
Yeah, that's for sure. I know you definitely have several hats going on. I have several hats in my club as well as many other women do. So
Yeah.
I think we tend to take on those roles, those like administrative roles and leadership type roles as women a lot more.
Yeah, and it's hard not to, right? Because you want to see
Yeah.
the success, um, but at the same time, you know, you have to also understand that there are limitations, and if you want to make sure that it's done well, like sometimes you need to push someone, maybe prod them to also get involved.
Exactly, exactly. Well, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges when it comes to women in sports, and especially like our biggest challenge in the United States when it comes to footy specifically and then growing the game for women there?
Well, so I think that there are several issues. Like one is just time constraints. I think that the people who are like the people who I think would you're normally trying to recruit are probably people that are also involved in other sports. I mean, everybody wants the athletes. Everybody wants, you know, those people that would be just naturals to place on the field. Which, you know, of course, we need to continue recruiting those people. But I think that we also need to be more confident in our skills in teaching people that may not be as obvious, because I think that that's a little bit untapped. Um, so I mean, and that's kind of going into getting more player education, um, more coaching education, because often a lot of these teams and these smaller clubs that are starting up are, you know, the person that started the club is also the person who's coaching the club, who's also the person that might play some kind of role within the club, like on the admin
Mhm.
side. So there's multiple things going on. I think that there's there's also some work to be done as far as just making sure that the league um, is helping support the developing clubs a little bit more. And I know that that is difficult, because I think that you know, thing regionally you have to have different considerations, and just different locations might have different considerations. And I think that you might need to change the focus on how we're currently implementing some of the focus. Like I think that, you know, maybe the college getting into colleges is going to be easier in one area versus like in New York, which is almost impossible. We've tried. um,
Yeah.
but I don't think you should stop doing that. I think that we just need a better model, and to figure out ways to do that. For the women specifically, um, I think that what we do well is really providing that community first, and then the footy comes second. Um, and so we get people involved because they want to hang out with this awesome group of people that um, like to play a sport, and it's a new sport and it's exciting and all those kinds of things. And I think that the next level for all of the teams is really switching those um, the players from being, you know, the social to getting the more serious. And that might mean that there are more divisions within the women's competition, or it just might involve different strategies. But I think now with the season on hold, it might be a good opportunity to start thinking of those strategies and seeing what could be possible, instead of what we've always done.
Yeah, I think it'd be great to switch it up a little bit. We've been around for several years now in the United States, and I'm just always stunned by how people don't know that footy exists or whatnot. So I think it's great that you guys again are promoting community over playing, and I think that's going to be really helpful for women players that are coming into the league. What would be your best advice that you would give women players, either rookies or women looking to play the sport?
Yeah, so I think that I think it's a cool time right now to be joining the sport because um, all I mean, there's just so much momentum on just female athletes, uh, period. But being able to have that opportunity to watch other women play AFL to kind of give a context, I think is really great and something that I didn't have. I think my first game that I ever watched was actually in Australia 4 years after I had started playing, and that's when everything kind of clicked. So I think one of the things is just to be familiar with the sport and really dive into it. learn the skills, learn the basics. Don't be afraid to keep on learning the basics and the skills, because those things are really going to pay dividends when you apply them in the on the games and on the field. But I think that one of those things is that just we as women have a lot of experience that we unknowingly bring in to our clubs, and I think that we just need to continue to be brave in putting that experience out there, and providing input, and encouraging people to look at, maybe something that you've done in the past that's worked, and think about whether that could be applicable to your club or the league or the region, whatever the case is. I think that we see a bunch of new players coming in from just so many different backgrounds. That's so incredibly impressive. But they're a little bit hesitant to put their hand up, because that there's some kind of unspoken hierarchy, or that's what they think. And I think that it could really be beneficial to the club to find positions for those people, or find ways for them to get involved. It just like that wealth of knowledge and that wealth of talent can be seen both on the field and in growing the league and in growing the home club.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well, like, trying to get your players involved more, especially the women players. It really helps them to grow their game. We've done that on my team with having them join more of the board roles. So we have a 50-50 split now pretty much on our board, which we haven't had in the past. And it's really cool to have people more involved and in subcommittees. I think that's really great to see and wonderful, just to get people involved and more active in your club that way, because then they actually want to come out and play the game more and feel more comfortable.
Yeah, and it means more to them when they have kind of an anchor in the club, and then that means that, yeah, maybe the kids that they're having now aren't going to be players next year, but that might be the club recruitment program in the next decade or two.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that sounds like a plan. I think just to get more involvement in players, have them join in, be active in the club, have them do social events as well as playing on the field. And I think with that, truly like a family, like I just call it the footy family, and like you get really that family feeling going of being involved, wanting to be involved, and then keep people coming back for more.
Absolutely.
So, like, if you were to tell players, like, what is your favorite thing that you enjoy most about footy that you could tell players?
Oh, I really love the competition. I really love the training, just the grit that's involved. It doesn't always end the way that you want it to end, but I think that it's really beneficial to go through that journey to get you wherever you end up, even if it results in a win or a loss. And I think that it's really beneficial to do that with a bunch of players that are similar minded. I mean, I could say that I would not know these people in any other circumstances, and I'm so thankful that somehow we all kind of united in the various paths that led us to playing the sport. So I think it's a great thing to go through, just that process, and get to know people, and then also that translates into broader things, like there are people that I would love to work with, or I would love to do other things with, and I wouldn't have known their character if it weren't for being on a team with them and competing with them.
Yeah, I mean, I think I see that too as well. Like the more you play with people and get involved on the team, then it actually leaks out into other aspects of your life. You end up becoming really close friends with them and having, them over for dinners, and you get involved with them like during the off season, you go out boating with them or hiking or whatever. And so you develop that strong connection with these people that, like, yeah, like you said, you would never have met any other way. And now you guys are like best friends, your family. you're together in this, you see each other all year long, can't get enough of each other. And I think that's just a really unique part about footy, and playing on these clubs and these teams, is that we get to be so close and develop such strong bonds with one another.
Yeah, it is. It's cool because I mean, we all have to be a little bit crazy, and a little bit daring, and a little bit adventurous to try a sport that isn't necessarily familiar to us or our upbringing. So I think that that's a common thing that unites just everyone across the league. So at the very least, we know that we have this denominator where we all get along and we know where we're coming from, and we kind of share these experiences together.
Yeah, for sure. I noticed that about Australian rules football, like at a different level. Like I've played soccer my whole life and softball my whole life competitively, and both of those sports don't lend to the camaraderie that we have playing footy. I think it's just such a special game, and a group of people. And I don't know if it's the Australian culture that kind of plays along well with that as too, or what goes on, but it's just like such a much better, stronger bond than I have with any other sport that I've played.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's probably a little bit that like everyone, yeah, well, for the most part, we have a bunch of athletes coming in. So not knowing the sport, you feel as an athlete very unathletic at first. Um,
Yeah.
so you kind of have that humbling experience at some point, and so everyone can relate to that. And there's a kindness and a patience that happens that you probably wouldn't see if you were jumping into another team.
Yeah, I can, yeah, that's definitely true. Everyone kind of stumbles their first training, like, "What the heck is this? How am I supposed to drop the ball? I have to punch the ball. What is going on?"
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, what do you see, what do you most like do you see for the future of the New York Magpies then? So what's in this future in the store for footy there?
I mean, of course, I would like us to see us coming home with a trophy from nationals. I think that is that has always been my goal. I feel pretty confident in saying that I think that's also Christina's goal. um, and we just also, like, as far as me and playing for the number of years, I want to also make sure that I'm, as I, you know someday stop playing and someday stop doing all the things that I'm doing, I want to make sure that that I'm leaving a good legacy behind, and making sure that my club, and my team they're strong, without me as well. Because I want to come back and watch them and come back and support them however I can, even if it's not on the field.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I don't see you stopping anytime soon though, Drea. You still got many years left in you.
I know that's much to my husband's dismay, I think.
Well, yeah. Tell him to suck it up. You're too good of a talented player, too much of a force to reckon with to quit now. You got to build that legacy out, and that takes time to build a legacy still.
I think he knows that.
Well, great. Tell us how players can get involved with the New York Magpies or how we can help support them.
Yeah. You can go to our website, newyorkmagpies.com. We're also on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at New York Magpies. We definitely love to use our Instagram, support our sponsors, support our players, support just basically everything that we can do to grow the AFL and USAFL community here in the States.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Drea. I love chatting with you, and I hope we can have you on the podcast again sometime again in the future.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. It was great.
Yeah, and just a reminder, this episode and all episodes of Outside 50 podcast can be found on usfootynews.com. Please check us out, have a listen, and share with your friends. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and thank you again, Drea. Cheers.
Cheers.
Outside 50 is brought to you with the help of Play Aussie USA. Play Aussie is the only place in the USA you can buy the famous Sharon football, a proud sponsor of the USAFL. Visit them at playaussie.com.